Emily Dawson was the perfect wife, and Daniel Reed was the secret she couldn't hide, until love turned deadly and a buried truth shocked an entire town. Emily Dawson had everything most people only dream of: a beautiful home in a quiet Maine suburb, a stable marriage to a successful accountant, and a respected position as a second-grade teacher at the local elementary school. To her neighbors, she was the epitome of grace and perfection, always smiling, always kind, always involved in the community. She baked cookies for PTA meetings, volunteered at the local shelter, and even helped organize summer book fairs at the school. People often said she was the kind of woman who made life seem easier, warmer. On the surface, her world was calm, cheerful, and full of purpose. But behind the walls of her picturesque life, things were very different. Her marriage to Richard Dawson had been steady but cold for years. Richard was the type of man who measured success in numbers: his clients, his income, his investments. He wasn't cruel or unfaithful, but he was distant, wrapped up in his work, and emotionally unavailable. Most evenings he came home late, ate dinner in silence, and buried himself in financial reports long after Emily had gone to bed. Their conversations became robotic, their laughter faded, and intimacy felt more like a duty than a connection. Still, Emily kept up appearances. She posted happy photos online, attended every social event, and wore her smile like armor. Over time, the loneliness began to hollow her out. She would lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was all life had to offer. The silence in their home grew heavier, and even the sound of her own footsteps felt like echoes in a museum. She tried filling the void with hobbies: gardening, journaling, even painting, but nothing worked. Emily craved affection, validation, and a sense of being truly seen. She didn't want to leave Richard, nor did she feel like she could. The idea of starting over, of tearing down the life they'd built, felt too risky. So she stayed, pretending, smiling, waiting. What Emily didn't realize was that the perfect image she fought so hard to maintain was becoming a mask she could no longer remove. The pressure to live up to it, to be the perfect wife, the perfect neighbor, the perfect teacher, was suffocating. And it was only a matter of time before something or someone would come along and shatter the illusion she had spent years crafting. That moment came in the most unexpected way. At a school fundraiser on a warm June evening, Emily met someone who would change everything. But at that point, as she laughed with parents and handed out lemonade, she had no idea that her carefully constructed world was about to unravel. No idea that the choices she would soon make would lead her down a path from admiration to scandal, from motherhood to murder. The perfect life she once had was just the calm before the storm. The school fundraiser that June evening was like every other community event, bright, cheerful, and buzzing with parents and teachers sharing small talk over lemonade and cupcakes. Emily was wearing a soft blue sundress, her hair tied in a loose bun, and her signature warm smile in place. As she moved between booths, helping kids with crafts and chatting with parents, she felt that same emptiness creeping in again. She was surrounded by people, yet she felt completely alone. That was when she noticed a new face behind the camera, a young man capturing candid moments of the evening for the school's website. His name was Daniel Reed. Daniel was a 28-year-old freelance photographer, hired by the PTA to shoot the event. He was tall, with a relaxed confidence and an easy charm that made people feel comfortable around him. Emily had never seen him before, and their first interaction was brief. A polite exchange as he took a photo of her helping a student. But something lingered. The next time they crossed paths, it is more deliberate. He complimented her work with the kids. She laughed, and they talked longer than they should have. It felt natural, effortless, like a piece of her had been waiting for someone like him. What started as small encounters quickly turned into something deeper. Over the next few weeks, Daniel began volunteering more at school events, often finding reasons to be where Emily was. They exchanged numbers under the pretense of discussing school photos, but their conversations quickly became personal. Emily found herself checking her phone constantly, waiting for his messages. Daniel told her she was beautiful, that she deserved more, that she looked sad even when she smiled. He noticed things Richard never had. And Emily, starved for attention and affection, let herself believe in the escape Daniel offered. Their first meeting outside school was innocent, a coffee at a quiet cafe, but it didn't stay innocent for long. One coffee became weekly lunches, and soon they were booking hotel rooms in towns nearby, away from familiar eyes. Emily told herself she wasn't doing anything wrong at first. She needed this. She deserved to feel alive again. Daniel made her feel like a woman, not just someone's wife or someone's teacher. He listened. He touched her gently. He made promises of a different life, a better one. As the months passed, the affair grew intense. Daniel was in love. Emily was addicted to the feeling he gave her. She started lying to Richard more often, about errands, school meetings, and late-night grading sessions. She was juggling two lives, each demanding more of her, and the pressure was mounting. Then one morning in early October, everything changed. Emily stared at a positive pregnancy test in her bathroom and felt her world tilt. She sat frozen, overwhelmed with panic. The baby wasn't Richard's. There was no way to hide that. The timing didn't match. The lie was too big now. Daniel was excited when she told him, already imagining a future with her and the baby. But Emily felt trapped between two lives, one built on stability, and the other built on passion and danger. She didn't want to lose either, yet she knew she couldn't keep both. The secret she carried was no longer just about an affair, it was a life, a lie, and eventually, it would demand a price. Richard Dawson had always been a methodical man. He noticed patterns, subtle changes in behavior, and small inconsistencies that most would overlook. For months, something about Emily had felt off. At first, he dismissed it as stress. Teaching was demanding, and Emily often brought work home. But soon, the differences became too obvious to ignore. She was distracted, more protective of her phone, and unusually cheerful at odd times. She started dressing differently, wearing makeup more often, humming to herself in the kitchen. It wasn't joy, it was something else, something secret. One evening, after Emily had gone to bed early with the excuse of a migraine, Richard stayed up, his thoughts racing. Curiosity led him to her tablet, which she often left charging by the kitchen counter. He wasn't expecting to find much, maybe some emails or social media posts. But what he discovered was far worse. Hidden behind a generic folder labeled School Resources was a trail of messages, unsent drafts and photos. There were pictures of Emily with another man, arms wrapped around each other, eyes filled with emotion. The timestamps were recent, the messages were intimate. There was no doubt, Emily was having an affair. Richard didn't react outwardly. He closed the folder, returned the tablet to its place, and went to bed, pretending nothing had changed. But something inside him had cracked. He didn't yell, accuse, or confront her immediately. He watched, he noted her habits, her schedule, and even followed her once or twice under the guise of going to work late. What he saw confirmed everything. She was meeting the man from the photos, Daniel. When Richard finally confronted Emily, it wasn't with rage. It was with a cold, sharp clarity. He told her he knew everything, that she had two choices: end the affair and return to their life, or face the consequences: public humiliation, divorce, and a ruined reputation. He reminded her of how small their town was, how quickly rumors spread, how a single scandal could destroy everything she'd built. Emily stood frozen, barely able to breathe. She agreed to end it. But it wasn't over. Daniel refused to disappear quietly. He had invested himself emotionally, believed they were building something real. When Emily stopped responding to his messages and blocked his number, he started showing up outside her school. He waited by her car, sent handwritten letters, and even hinted he would tell Richard everything himself if she didn't come back to him. Emily was spiraling. The very thing that had brought her joy now felt like a noose tightening around her neck. She begged Daniel to stop, told him it was over, pleaded with him not to ruin her life. but he didn't care about consequences. He cared about her. The more she pushed him away, the more desperate he became, and with each passing day, Emily felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, with no way out. The lie had grown too big, the stakes too high. She wasn't just protecting a secret anymore. She was protecting herself, and she was willing to do anything to keep her perfect world from collapsing completely. The days following Daniel's last letter were filled with dread. Emily could hardly sleep, and when she did, her dreams were haunted by what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. Every knock at the door made her jump. Every unfamiliar car parked on the street sent her heart racing. She was unraveling. Daniel's presence lingered everywhere, in the hallways of her school, in the memories of their meetings, and in the growing fear that he might destroy everything she had worked so hard to protect. He had threatened to expose her, to tell Richard, to tell the school. If he followed through, her life would be over. One rainy afternoon, Emily sat in her car, parked behind the school, watching the windshield wipers drag slowly across the glass. Her mind was racing, desperate, and dark. She thought about her unborn child. She thought about the looks she'd get if the truth came out, the shame, the judgment, the loss of everything. And she thought about Daniel, persistent, passionate, and unwilling to let go. That was when the idea came, not fully formed, not rational, but a flicker of a solution, a way to make it all go away. She called Daniel that night. Her voice trembled, but she pretended to be calm. She told him she wanted to talk, that she was ready to run away with him, that they should meet one last time, in private, somewhere no one would bother them. Daniel, still clinging to hope, agreed without hesitation. They chose a remote hiking trail just outside town, a place they had once visited early in their affair, secluded and quiet. The perfect place for a final conversation, she said. Emily prepared carefully. She packed a bag with gloves, a flashlight, and a hammer taken from Richard's toolbox. She dressed in plain clothes, no jewelry, and left her phone at home. When she met Daniel at the trail entrance, he smiled at her, his eyes full of longing and belief. He didn't suspect a thing. They walked for nearly 20 minutes, into the thick woods, where the trees swallowed sound. Daniel talked about starting over, about finding a small apartment, about names for the baby. Emily nodded, barely hearing him. Her heart pounded so loudly it drowned out his words. When the moment came, it happened fast. She struck him from behind with the hammer, once, twice, 3 times. He collapsed instantly, blood spreading into the fallen leaves beneath him. Emily stood over his body, frozen, her breath ragged. She waited, staring, until the silence convinced her it was done. Then she moved quickly. She dragged his body off the path and into a shallow dip in the ground, covering him with leaves, branches, and whatever dirt she could move with her hand. She walked back to her car in silence. No tears, no shaking, just numbness. That night, she cleaned herself carefully, burned her clothes in a metal bin behind the house, and dumped the hammer into the nearby lake. She used Daniel's phone, which she had taken from his pocket, to send herself a final message: leaving town, don't wait for me. To the world, Daniel had simply disappeared, and Emily, once again, was the perfect wife. Smiling, calm, untouched. But beneath the mask, a terrible truth lay buried, just like the man she once claimed to love. The discovery came nearly 2 months later. Winter had just begun to settle over the small Maine town, bringing with it bare trees, cold winds, and the eerie silence of an off-season hiking trail. 2 local hikers, a father and daughter looking for deer tracks, strayed slightly off the main path. That's when they noticed something unusual, a patch of disturbed earth, half frozen but slightly sunken, with tufts of fabric poking through the leaves. The smell confirmed it before they even uncovered the body. The authorities were called immediately, and the investigation into the missing person case of Daniel Reed was suddenly a homicide. The autopsy revealed the brutality. Daniel had been struck in the back of the head multiple times with a blunt object. There were no signs of struggle, suggesting he had been caught completely off guard. Investigators combed through Daniel's background, retracing his steps, interviewing acquaintances, and analyzing his digital footprint. Slowly, the threads began to lead in one clear direction, toward Emily Dawson. Though she had tried to erase any evidence, the digital trail refused to disappear. Old texts, deleted messages, and cloud backups revealed the truth of the affair. Witnesses confirmed that Daniel and Emily had been seen together numerous times in the months before his disappearance. Her colleagues recalled her sudden changes in behavior, and some even remembered Daniel waiting for her outside school grounds. It didn't take long before suspicion narrowed directly onto her. When police questioned Emily, she remained calm at first, insisting that she and Daniel had ended their contact months ago. But under pressure, her story began to fracture. Investigators presented her with GPS data, showing her car near the hiking trail on the night Daniel vanished. The final blow came when Daniel's phone was recovered from a pond by divers, traced there by a ping the device had sent before being powered off. Data recovered from the phone matched Emily's alibi to the exact moment of the staged goodbye text. Confronted with mounting evidence, Emily finally broke. In a recorded confession, she admitted to the murder. Her trial became a media sensation. The local press labeled her the perfect wife killer, and national outlets picked up the story of the teacher-turned-murderer who killed her lover to protect a double life. Prosecutors argued that the murder was calculated, premeditated, and cold. Emily's defense tried to paint her as a woman cornered by shame and fear, but the jury saw through it. She was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 32 years in prison without the possibility of parole for the first. Richard Dawson filed for divorce shortly after the verdict and sold their home within months. He never spoke publicly about the case and eventually left town. The community that once adored Emily was left stunned, struggling to reconcile the image they had of her with the horror of what she had done. The woman who had once seemed so perfect had carefully hidden a web of lies, passion, betrayal, and ultimately murder. Her story became a haunting reminder that even the most flawless faces can mask the darkest secrets.